seem pretty cavalier. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's in motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me alone and thinking I'm the one to blame. Your words weave strings around our limbs. Players in unfamiliar skin. Dangled like toys in your roadshow. Too easy now just to let go. How did I become a puppet here? The string unraveled from my heart has made it pretty clear. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's on motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me alone and thinking I'm the one to
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of People Who Inspire. Today, I'm excited to have a very important person as far as the topic is concerned. So, as I always do every session or every episode, we are going to first of all understand a bit of who my guest is, what his journey has been so far, and what experiences he has to share with us. And we would dovetail into the topic, which is the growth mindset. I'm really excited because I think that Dr. Tinagyei is probably the most qualified person as far as this topic is concerned, having followed his work over the years. So I'm excited to have you. Hello, Doc. How are you doing? And welcome to People Who Inspire.
So thank you very much, Prince. I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome.
Privileged to be counted as one of the people who inspire.
Oh, it's awesome.
The pedigree of your show. I look at the pedigree of the guest on your show, and counting myself in that company is humbling and also excited that you see me as somebody who inspires. So thank you.
Definitely. I have no doubt. As far as your pedigree is concerned. I think that I think I was telling you earlier that for me the very first time I actually saw you was when you were singing. You were singing in church. So it's kind of talking to you now. It's bringing back some very good memories.
Yes.
And I think from KNUST days. Yeah. You're a man of many talents and many abilities. That one is for sure. So
I like to think so.
So I would want us to get to know a little bit about who Dr. Tinagyei is. I know that for many people on social media, their, let's say, virtual encounter with you would probably be around reading and books and all that. I think you're one of the most well-read people I know out there. So before we get to, let's say, the topic, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you grew up, where you're born, and let's say the kind of inspirations that you had growing up, up until this point. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself. I think the volume from your mic is also a bit low now. It's gone low. So if you could either speak up or increase the volume, that would be great.
Okay. Let me see.
Otherwise, you can also.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. That's fine. So for those of you watching, we have a very exciting episode lined up, and this topic for me is crucial, especially in these times where there's so much negative news, there's so much negativity in society. You turn on the television or social media, there's always some form of news that would try to kind of get you a bit depressed or demotivated. So we are going to really try to understand exactly what it means to have a growth mindset, and let's say the various moving parts. So Doc is back, so I would hand over the reins now. So Doc, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, is the volume fine? Is it better now?
Yes, 100% better now.
Okay, great. All right, so I had my basic education and junior high school education at Modern International. That is in Kumasi, Bokrom Estate specifically. And then I proceeded to Kumasi Academy for my senior high school education, where I did science, general science as a course. And then I proceeded to KNUST to pursue optometry, Doctor of Optometry degree. That's a 6-year course, academic course, plus a 1-year practical professional. So I graduated in 2010, and I finished my attachment or internship in 2011, and then I started working. So I've been in practice for the last 11 years. And,
wow.
So that is as far as my professional life is concerned. The other parts of me, like you mentioned, I'm into music. I love to listen and sing. I've been doing less of the singing in the last couple of years because there have been so many things that I've been trying to do. So there's less of the singing and more of the listening.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm also a book or reading fanatic. I think I've gained the term fanatic.
Well deserved.
I've gone beyond just I've gone beyond just reading it myself. Now I'm determined to get everybody to read. So I think I deserve the word fanatic. And and then I'm also an author. I've published about 5 books now. I'm currently working on a revised version of one of those I've already done. And I'm in various stages of 2 other books that I'm currently working on. For the last 2 years, I've been a master coach, a master NLP practitioner, and a therapist too. So
wow.
I've also done Christian counseling and general counseling courses. I'm currently working on certification and gazetting process by the Ghana Psychological Society. So that's what I'm currently working on. But I have an internationally recognized certificate for general and Christian counseling, therapy, and emotional intelligence coaching. So those are the things that I do in addition to my practice as an optometrist. I'm also a speaker.
Wow.
And I train. I'm a corporate trainer, specifically on public speaking, negotiation, presentation skills, and stress management. So those are the
Oh,
things that
okay.
I've dabbled. Yes, I've dabbled. And recently, I've developed this, should I say, unhealthy um, interest in anime, Japanese anime and
Oh,
Chinese dongwa. They are fascinating to me. I think they are just amazing. The
wow.
creativity and the storyline. So that's what I've been indulging in recently. I love them so much. So I think that is it about me. Um, I'm also a very very big fan of Jollof.
Yeah, the Jollof Wars. So you're a Jollof. You're not a watcher. You're not a watcher camp. You're not in the watcher camp. Eh?
Oh,
You're more in the
I
Jollof camp.
tolerate I tolerate watching.
You
I
tolerate. I
tolerate
like that.
watching. Yes, yes, I tolerate watching. I mean, after all, it's also a big player, but I tolerate it. But I feel that we can't have watching wars with any other country. So, Jollof is the
Yes,
international dish.
Jollof International, international big brother of watching.
Yes, yes, yes. It's about time people realize that.
Wow. And I also realized that, I mean, when I look at someone like you with this multiplicity of talents and abilities, it's really kind of makes me want to probe, like growing up, how was it like? Because I feel that your love for books might have started at some point. Like, at what point did you realize that, like, I'm in love with books, right? Was it a very early stage in life where your parents always buy you books? Like, at what point did you realize you love books?
I think I've loved stories since I was a child. I always asked my mom to tell me stories and jokes. Um, I realized that I have a very, very crazy, imaginative mind where I create stories in my mind all the time. I create scenarios and circumstances. I mean, it's crazy. So I started loving reading whilst I think when I was in basic school. I would always go and sit in the library and read. So my teachers were encouraging me all the time. I recall when I was in primary 5 and 6, I would be allowed to go outside the school on Fridays um, to go to the Ashanti Library, which doesn't exist anymore,
Wow.
at the cultural center. I would be allowed to go out and go and borrow books, and my teachers
Wow.
would inspect the books that I've gone to borrow. So that was somewhere basic stage 5 and 6. Because I love to read. I was always engaging in debate competitions. So it was one of the yes, and I think that that it was a budding interest in reading, and I loved
Okay.
it. I would always go to the library every weekend, and to the point where the librarian would allow me to borrow more than 2 books. Standard was 2 books.
Oh,
I would be
wow.
allowed, yes, to the point. I mean, I would borrow 2 books and I'll return them a week later, and I'll tell her I'm done with both. You know, so at a point she would allow me to borrow 3 books or 4 books. So that was the beginning. When I went to senior high school, I think first term, my uncle was then a lecturer at former Kumasi Polytechnic, now Kumasi Technical University, and he had an appointment in a university in the United States, and he was relocated the whole family. So when I returned from first term senior high school, I came to see a new wardrobe in my room. I didn't know where it came from. When I asked
Mm-hmm.
my mom, she said that, oh, those were some of the stuff that my uncle and the family had brought to our house because they were relocating and they didn't know when they would be
Oh,
coming
okay.
back. So they brought, I don't know who made that decision to put that wardrobe in my room, you know.
Mm.
So when I opened it, it was filled from top to the bottom with books.
Ooh, gold mine.
Absolutely. I mean, so that was when my reading interest became crazy. It was burdened, it was
Okay.
growing gradually, but when I got that particular treasure trove, it became crazy. I wouldn't even step out of my room. I mean, imagine you are hungry and you chanced on a water fountain. You dunk your whole head into it, you know. And since he
Yeah.
was such an avid reader, I mean, he was a lecturer, there was like a
Oh,
mixture of
okay.
all types of books. A mixture of all types of books. I mean, there were Christian literature, there were entrepreneurship, business, leadership, African literature, philosophy, psychology. I
Mm.
mean, it was just like a perfect buffet of books. You know? So that actually kind of activated the crazy part of my interest in books. And recently, I'm trying to relocate from my current apartment to another apartment, and my headache now is the number of books.
That's
And
serious.
so, yes, I mean, I'm trying to pack everything, and I'm realizing that I might not have enough space for the current place I'm moving to, because I think that my personal library has exceeded 3,000 hard copy books.
What?
Yes, 3,000 hard copy books. That is minus all the
Wow.
soft copies and audio books I have
Of the,
on my.
yeah.
So, yes. So
Wow.
I'm finding it difficult to even find places to put them. I have 3 bookshelves that are already full, and I've packed some in boxes and stuff. So after, like I was saying, my crazy addiction to books started way back, and um, it's been continuing. And the interesting thing, especially with the subject we are going to discuss, is that I looked through the books I have, and I realized that I've done close to about 60 to 70% of the books. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing that I've read that many books, and every time thinking that I still need to learn so many other things, I'm like, ooh, wow.
Mm. Mm.
There's too much to enjoy as far as knowledge is concerned, and there's too little time for man to enjoy it all.
That's very profound. That's very profound. I think that you kind of, I mean, when I think about books, and my personal experience with reading, has been that it's I find it's like a place of solace when I'm reading it, right? It's almost like I leave this plane and I'm in my own kind of world when I'm reading. And sometimes it's crazy, even when I'm reading like entrepreneurship books, I get so much deep, and I like my attention, and because of that, and that's just me, right? I can't read like just anywhere. Like when I'm reading, it's like a serious, serious business. Like, I get my whole, and when I'm reading, it's like I'm watching a movie, my whole attention, and I don't care about what's happening around my environment. I'm guessing you also get lost in your reading as well.
Definitely, definitely. So that is where you enter into flow, so you'll be able
Ah,
to attain flow with your reading and everything. And when you are in that state, it's like you have access to all your memories,
yes,
and you are able to connect the current information to anything else you've ever learned on that subject. You know?
yes.
And you are processing, you are assessing, you are analyzing, you are comparing, all happening at the same time. That is flow, and that is heavy reading. And
Mm,
one of the things that also pushed me to mental health is that when I was a little, because of my
mm-hmm.
crazy imaginative mind, I used to sometimes have nightmares. You know, and I would
Oh,
pick
okay.
and I would pick a favorite book and then use that one to treat my nightmare.
Oh, okay, okay. Wow.
So when I woke up in the middle of the night and I was scared, all I needed was to pick a book I loved, and I'll be lost in it, and then the fear would just go out.
Wow.
Yep. So that was what I was doing. I mean, so I had a lot of novels. I mean, those that I really enjoyed. And if I had a nightmare and I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep, I'll just enter and for a few minutes, I'll just get into the book and everything else will disappear. Everything else.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that really helped me with therapy. So I have always advocated that any center or any place that calls itself a therapy center should have a library.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Because reading can be therapy, and that's why we have book therapy.
Okay. Wow.
And it's a very efficient therapy process that is used to treat several things. Things like anxiety, even schizophrenia, hallucinations. The people are able to use book and reading therapy to treat them or to manage them.
Okay. Wow. I think that it's and for those of you watching, I think that it's already, let's say, indisputable that reading and I think and maybe you can also share your thoughts on this. I remember that at some point when I was also a bit like you with books, but I think you are like you are in the advanced you're in that advanced version of the whole thing.
I was
I
in
love books,
advanced
but
class,
not as much. Exactly, you're in advanced class now because I couldn't read like as many. I mean, many also because I remember that when I was in high school, junior high school, I didn't grow up in, let's say, like a rich home or anything. So I grew up in a compound house. My mom was a policewoman, so I grew up in a police barracks. And I remember that there were times that I knew for sure, of course, my mom couldn't afford buying me books at that time. So I wouldn't say she kind of bought me, and I remember this. So she bought me my first dictionary. Right. Okay. It was the Collins Cobbled Advanced Learning Dictionary. I still remember how that dictionary looks like. And because I didn't have any books, the dictionary, like I literally read the dictionary like like a storybook. And I remember so vividly. I would literally read words and try to understand them. One way to build your vocabulary is to read a lot of books. And because I didn't have access to a lot of books, right? I had access to the dictionary. So I built like a very powerful library of vocabulary at a very early stage, right? Okay. So my question here is, and maybe just for your input, right? How important is, like, especially for the parents who are watching today's episode, how important is introducing reading or books to your children at an early stage, right? I know one advantage is that it builds their vocabulary, but from your point of view and experience, like how important is it to start, as they say, start them young in reading?
I think if I'm going to go straight, I think it's critical, for parents to encourage their children to love reading. Because you see, the words that form the foundation of communication are found in books, right? And the connection of these words to create the sentences and the phrases and the paragraphs that we trade in as communicative creators are found in these books. Every subject, even mathematics, underpinning it is the capacity to read and comprehend. And especially if you're somebody who wants to go into law, you want to go into sociology, you want to go into medicine, loving reading subjects is the way to make your pathway easier. Subjects like physics, biology, social studies, government, a whole lot of them. Underpinning it is a capacity to read and understand. And with reading, what happens is that the more you encounter certain words, you might not even have to use a dictionary. Sometimes by context, by the
Yes.
contextual use of the word, you are able to understand what it means. So parts of your English exams, like words that best fit, or words that are similar in meaning, or words that are opposite in meaning, those parts become the easiest part of your English exams. Because when you are reading the sentence and you are not even familiar with the words, because they sound right in your head, you are just used up at instinct that they sound right to be able to find the missing word. And so for me, I think that there is nothing like, oh, my child doesn't like reading. No, you should make your child love to read.
Yes.
The world is moving to a point where if you don't know a little bit of everything, you are going to find it really hard to survive. I think that recently people are getting to understand the full piece of jack of all trades and master of none. It's just a small portion of that statement. And when I did my research on jack of all trades, I realized that it wasn't meant to sound as negative as we've portrayed it. So learning and loving reading creates a very strong and solid foundation for almost everything in life. So personally, if you ask me, intellectual habits you should make your children learn and love: reading, and if possible, speaking more than one language.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting dimension.
Yes, because I realized that life is certainly about communication. Everything we do, whether it is verbal or non-verbal, and influence is achieved by association. So it's not just about learning how to speak with people, it's also learning how to speak like people.
Oh, that's deep.
Exactly. I mean,
Wow.
if you learn all the systems that makes negotiation possible, or influence or persuasion possible, beyond great communicative skills, is also the capacity to get to familiarity. And familiarity is achieved when you are able to speak the person you want to relate with language very well. So I'm saying that apart from making your children love to read, if it's possible, let them also learn another language. So yes, that is to answer your question. Reading is fundamentally critical.
But it's gone off again. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, now I can hear you. Yes, I think there was a small glitch, but I can hear you now. Perfect. You made a very important statement that I think is so profound, that it's not just enough to speak with people, but to speak like them. I think that's really profound. That has really got me thinking, and that kind of brings us to what I want to talk about today, because again, when I look at your personal experiences and what you've shared with us so far, I get the impression that you have a certain kind of worldview that keeps you kind of pushing yourself to learn more and to absorb more. So, like from a purely definition point of view, right? What really is what you're doing, what we call the growth mindset? Like, what really is the growth mindset? Can you share with us let's say the underlying or underpinning thesis behind this whole topic about the growth mindset? And for people who are watching, like, what really is the growth mindset? Does that mean just growing, biologically, or what does it really mean?
Okay. So I think that because I would like people to really remember some of the things we're talking about. growth
Yeah.
mindset is centered on three things,
Okay.
three major things: humility, curiosity, and perseverance.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
humility, curiosity, and perseverance. Now, growth
Perseverance.
mindset is a mindset that says that allows you to consistently progress as far as accumulation or acquisition of knowledge is concerned. Is a mindset that teaches that you are not perfect and that getting something wrong does not mean you are capable of doing it. It just means you are not there yet, you know. And underpinning things is the understanding that human intelligence, human capacity and skills can be improved endlessly. You know,
Mm.
and that every you experience is your current state, and then to either two results: are you there yet, or you are not there yet? Okay, that is the two things that are into the growth mindset. So the ability to get to that point requires those things: humility, curiosity, and perseverance. Humility in the
Mm.
sense that you know you are not that good. I mean, look, you are great in certain things, but you are not that good.
Mm.
Okay, it's a consistent reminder that it doesn't matter how good you think you are in something, somebody else is doing better than you. And even if nobody else is doing better than you, there is still room for you to do it even better because you are not dead yet. And so that is the humility part, that it doesn't matter how well you can do something. There's either somebody who can do it way better than you, or you can do it way better than what you're doing currently. And that human
Mm.
skill and intelligence and growth is endless. You know? So if you have that mindset, it means that if you do something and you fail, it doesn't mean that it is not a question of your worth or your value. It's
Mm.
only a question of the level of your progress at that particular moment in your life.
Okay.
And I recall the lady the professor who really expounded on this growth mindset and actually wrote the book Mindset on it. One of the statements she made was that sometimes when she's called to even speak with educators, she tells them that instead of marking somebody as failed in an exam, all right, especially for example, if the person was doing a maths question or an engineering question, and the person got parts of the process correct, if the person gets the answer as wrong, you don't mark as failed, you mark as not yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The
That's
idea was
interesting.
that although you hit it now, you are on your right way. You just need to work a little harder than what you're currently working, and then you can be able to hit it. So growth mindset is an understanding that capacity and skill knowledge is endless and is progressive, and that if you're not able to do something right now, it's just a matter of time and effort, and that you are not that good. You may be great at certain things, but you are not that good. And there is no perfection until you die.
Mm.
So the open growth mindset, fixed mind, and
Oh, can you tell us a bit
unfortunately,
about
it
the
is
fixed
so.
mindset?
Okay, so the fixed mindset is when you said um, your level of intelligence or your capacity to grow is limited, and that if you are not able to
Oh,
do
okay.
something that you did, if you failed at something, it meant that you are a failure. Or if you did not succeed at doing something, it meant you are done. You know,
Mm.
and what the mindset also does that it stops you from um, trying new things and challenging yourself because you don't want others
Okay.
to think that you are not as good as you portray to be. So for example, you've
Wow.
told everybody that you are the best. So let's say you've told everybody that you are the best. Let's say you are the best programmer in the world, All right. And now you get a gig, and no matter how much you code, the bugs just can't leave the system.
Yeah.
I mean, you run it 1,000 times, and you are still hitting the same bug. A fixed mindset will say, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm done. I won't be able to do anything. It's done. All right. And when that happens, you are not even willing to take on any more challenging assignments because you don't want people to think you are not as good as you say you are.
Okay.
But a growth mindset will say, okay, look, the fact that I can't do it right now does not mean I cannot do it at all. It just means that I need to what? Code a little longer, refresh my memory on the programs, probably learn another program, you know, or even find a better system to code with. You know, that's what a growth mindset does. A growth mindset allows you to have the humility to admit that you are not perfect, the curiosity to find out what can make you better, and the perseverance to stick to the process, even if you're not getting it right in the first place.
Wow. I like the humility, curiosity, and perseverance, let's say, foundation that you have given us. Because I think, you know, in this era of social media, there is the tendency to be kind of to wallow in your hubris and, you know, like think that, yeah, I know it all. And so there are actually, let's say, two dimensions to this whole conversation. There are those who portray to be what they are not on social media. And there are those who also, although they are, let's say, qualified to comment on a topic, they feel that they are not qualified or they feel that they are not good enough, right? So my question here is like, how do we instill confidence in the person who has the pedigree to comment on a topic or to contribute to a solution and is not doing so because they feel they are not adequate, right? How do we help that person? And then how do we also, let's say, advise that person who is just all over the place but has not got their pedigree to back the noise they are making? Like how does the growth mindset address these two kinds of people?
Okay, so it's funny because, you know, those two people you are describing, the one who is ascribing a certain status onto themselves, although they don't deserve it, you know, that person is not exhibiting a growth or a fixed mindset. That person is actually being narcissistic. All right. So narcissism allows you to create a certain persona you have not hit. And of course, the foundation of narcissism is pride. And remember that the foundation of growth mindset is humility.
It's humility. Okay.
Exactly. So somebody who ascribes to status onto themselves is just either being a narcissist or just exhibiting pride. And people who have low self-esteem are also the people who exhibited traits of narcissistic behavior. You know, so it's more of attack is the best form of defense.
Yes.
So instead of waiting to be found out that you have a low self-esteem, they try to project, or better still, they try to overcompensate, and then move onto the scale of being a narcissist or proud. Now, the other side too is people who are qualified but do not have the confidence to comment. Now, that could also be because of a fixed mindset.
Oh, okay.
Because the idea of not wanting to expose yourself because you think that you are going to fail, all right, is birthed from the assumption that you are stuck at your current knowledge level. Okay. But if you believe that there is room for you to grow, putting yourself out there and finding out you are not there yet is not surprising.
Okay.
That's why curiosity must also come in. You should be curious enough to put yourself out there so that the system will judge your current state and give you the feedback you need to get better. You know, it's just like a startup entrepreneur who is not putting out their product to market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they keep tweaking it, they keep changing the time to launch, they keep pushing it forward, they keep adding on stuff to it, taking stuff out, they keep changing the UI. It's like every single time they feel they should do something else to the product. You know, but a product is still just a dream if it has not been put in the hands of the user. And that is the only place you'll be told whether you are there yet or not. Okay, so beyond humility, there is curiosity. And anyone who is afraid to exhibit the current knowledge they have on any subject or any topic needs to have curiosity. All right, attached to humility in the sense that we are so invested in our ideas to the point where we are willing to keep bad ones rather than risk
so
amending
true.
them. Rather than risk amending them. You know, so normally I when I'm speaking to a group of people and I ask them, what is stopping you from going all out to do the things you want to do? And then sometimes they're like, I'm afraid of what people will say. I'm afraid that people will think this or people will think that way. And I ask them, do you know how many thoughts each individual have in a day? You know, you know, we overestimate the amount of time people spend thinking about us.
Yeah.
Yes, we overestimate.
It's so true.
So I asked them, look, you've been in this hall for 2-3 hours. What's the color of the shirt of the person sitting right by you? You know, 9 out of 10 times they don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but the person probably is so self-conscious that they even imagine that the person sitting by them is aware of the color of their shoes.
Yeah.
You know, but because we experience so many visual sensations in the day, our brain tunes off a lot of the things it regards as unnecessary. You know, so most of them are just stored in our subconscious and they don't even pass through our conscious mind. So if you have the fear of exposing the level of your knowledge on any subject, you shouldn't, because people don't take you as seriously as you think they do.
Yeah.
You know? And it is important
Can you still hear me? Okay, so I think we have a bit of a technical hitch with Dr. Tinagyei. So if you are still joining us, today we are having Dr. Tinagyei on people who inspire. I think his line got frozen momentarily. So whilst he's trying to fix that, we are actually talking about the growth mindset, and we are learning some interesting principles. And Dr. Tinagyei just shared with us that the growth mindset is actually predicated on 3 key things: 1, humility; 2, curiosity; and 3, perseverance. So these are the 3, I call it maybe the tripartite, let's say characteristics of the growth mindset: humility, curiosity, and perseverance. And before his line went off, he was sharing with us how that the fact that you have expertise in a particular field, yet you choose not to speak up, is a sign of a fixed mindset. So Doc, are you back now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Please go on now. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone, so the people who have the capacity to comment on the subject, but they don't have the self-confidence to do, the idea is that you need to put yourself out there to assess where you are as far as your level of knowledge is concerned on the subject you feel you know. Because I believe that every single day there is new knowledge that is being added to the ones that we have. And it is important that you know the level where you are, and then you increase and improve yourself. So it is only done that way if you allow, should I say, society to assess your level of knowledge and give you the feedback you need, you know. Because if you don't do that, you might think that, oh, I know enough about this subject, but you probably do not. So it is important to replace your fear with curiosity and replace your, should I say, pride in what you know with humility to learn more. And I feel that if you have those two things, it will allow you to be able to gain the self-confidence to comment on the things that you feel qualified to do.
I think this how much of one's proclivity towards these three things you've shared, humility, curiosity, and perseverance, how much of one's proclivity towards these three things is as a result of their upbringing, and how much of it is as a result of their nature? So for example, I'm asking this because I want to understand whether humility, curiosity, perseverance are actually the result of one's upbringing and experiences, or it's as a result of, oh, this guy, he was born humble, like he has been humble since or he was curious since birth, like how much of our proclivity for these is as a result of nature. Because I'm asking also this because I for some time now I've been, like, let's say, reading around things like temperament and personality and stuff like that. And one of the characteristics of, let's say, a choleric is that they might come across as people who are like, we call them braggadocious or something, like that's how they might come across, because they like to state their achievements and their prowess and what they are capable of doing, whereas, let's say, a phlegmatic would rather let things slide. So I'm asking, like, much as these three things are important, how much of it is nature, how much of it is nurture, and how, let's say, do you have any comments, let's say, on this?
Yes. Okay, so I think that is the age-old debate on nature versus nurture. And I have always advocate for a balanced system. But as I grow out, I lean towards nurture a lot more, because I think that nature just gives seeds and potential. A large portion of how you turn out is nurture. So the best diagram I could use probably would be the iceberg, where underneath the appearance will be nurture, and the top that shows will be nature, in the sense that it's more of like only 10% that nature contributes to, in my opinion. Because I realized that even with temperaments are shaped primarily by environment. Because
the environment,
the potential to exhibit the characteristics of a choleric, a melancholic, a phlegmatic, a sanguine could be nature, but then the shaping of that potential to become a translated, observable character in the personality of somebody is purely based on nature. It also means that it is easier for certain people to behave in certain ways. That's the only difference I think nature makes. I feel nature either simply makes it easier or harder to turn out a certain way. But largely, the way you turn out is influenced by your environment or your nature. So yes, a choleric has a higher potential of coming across as haughty and proud. But then we also know that temperaments are not isolated. They are more
Okay, so I think we lost Doctor again. So yes, so I just want to recap before he rejoins the call. So I asked a very interesting question, because a lot of times when we talk about the mindset, right? We kind of think about people's personality traits. So he's explaining the nature versus nurture conversation. I think, okay, he's back now, so we can proceed. Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So I was saying that the ease with which you develop a personality is influenced by nature, but the full expression of that personality is still the act or the work of nature or your environment. So somebody who is naturally choleric, all right, may come across as a proud person if the person does not develop perhaps a capacity to control that part of their personality. You know, somebody who is a phlegmatic could be a phlegmatic, or a melancholic could be a pushover if they don't learn to control that part of their personality. A sanguine could be careless, carefree person if they don't control that part of their personality. You know, so I think that yes, nature has a part to play, but the large portion of what you exhibit is fundamentally nature. And there is so growth mindset lets you know that, look, although I might have this personality as a genetic or as a birth thing, I still have the capacity to grow that personality, all right, and then build the weaknesses and then temper the rough edges. So even here, growth mindset works on how to be able to manage your predisposed temperament. Okay. So I think that yes, temperaments and nature has some role to play, but a growth mindset allows you to be able to manage even those things in order to be able to get the full benefit of whatever personality that you have. And I was saying that apart from temperament, we also have a whole series of other things that influence our life, even the birth order. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yes, tell us more.
Exactly. So the first bones, the middle bones, the last bones, they also have these interesting characteristics. You know, the apart from temperaments, there is also the personality test. The Enneagram personality test is also there. The Holland personality test is also there.
Yes.
Myers-Briggs also have their own personality test. So there is a myriad of tests that will let you know certain portions of your personality. But within all these things, a growth mindset allows you to be able to improve on the good parts and then temper the rough edges of your personality.
I absolutely love the iceberg analogy that you gave in respect of this nature versus nurture. So I think that it's super crucial. You know, like the fact that and for all those of you watching, the fact that you have, let's say, a predisposition towards some aspect of a personality does not mean that you are confined or imprisoned by the weaknesses or even the strengths of that particular, personality, type. So again, the growth mindset, as Doc said, comes to play here, that managing those aspects of your personality or your temperament is also crucial. Now, Doc, I want to quickly get into the growth mindset in the workplace, right? So as a professional, and I know that, like you rightly said, you have over a decade experience, as an optometrist, as a doctor, and like how, like I'm watching, let's say I'm watching this episode, I'm thinking, how do I practically apply the principles of the growth mindset in my workplace, in like executing my job, right? Like, Are there any examples you can give someone watching so that the person can say, okay, look, from Monday, Doc said I should do these 3 things that will help me, on my day-to-day execution at work? Is there anything like that you can share with us, like a practical way of applying this into our daily work as professionals?
Okay, yes. That's a great question. I think that, we keep saying that think outside the box.
Yes.
But sometimes if you go too far outside the box, you fall off.
Yes.
So my philosophy is that sometimes you need to just fold up the box, throw it away, and then just think. Sometimes too, you just need to make your box bigger. So for example, a growth mindset in the workplace, your strategy would be to expand the size of your box, because you need the boundaries of the box to stay within whether the ethical or the legal confinements of your professional freedoms and
I love that.
Yes, and then your capacity and your rights. For example, if I as an AI professional, I can think outside. I can't think outside the box. I need to think inside a bigger box. Because
I love that.
there are some ethical boundaries I cannot cross. There are some standard professional boundaries I cannot cross. But it doesn't mean that I should make my box small. I can think in a really huge box, So one big example had been, when we were in school, we were taught procedure, we were taught diagnostic systems, we were taught what to look out for, what that and that and that means. All right, a combination of these symptoms mean that. We are taught diagnostic tools and what their relevance is. We were taught objective and subjective analysis of issues. The idea was that do the objective first, and then do the subjective if necessary, and then refine the objective with the subjective. But on the field, it is apparent that about 80% of your work is purely subjective. Because you are working with human beings. You cannot have an objective standard for everyone who walks in. You can have an ethical and professional standard for every single client you have. But your scope of practice and your system of diagnosis should not be following a certain straitjacket process that is placed somewhere. Because people are not, they don't fit into molds.
Yeah.
Each individual is as different as those who have done the research. I don't know who did it, but as different as the shape of a snowflake.
Wow.
And therefore, you might have all these ideas in your head about what certain symptoms mean. But unless you really get into the mind of the client and ask certain questions and observe certain things, sometimes even the responses they give you are responses they think you want to hear.
That's a tough one.
Yes. So in order to become a very good, and the thing is, nobody will go and tell other people that I gave a wrong history, and that is why my diagnosis didn't work.
Yeah.
They will always make it appear as if they told you everything you needed to know, and you are the one who couldn't give them a proper treatment to their problem.
Yes, it's always your fault.
Exactly. And that is why it is essential that you go beyond just what you have been taught in school, and then you adapt as per what you are seeing. And sometimes you are only able to achieve that particular level of skill by consistent practice. And that is where the growth mindset comes in. Your humility to understand that, look, although I've been trained for 6 and 7 years, I still don't know everything. and the curiosity to like, okay, so if I don't know everything, how do I get to know? And the perseverance in, okay, I asked these questions, it didn't work. Let me ask this set of questions and see that if this will work. You know? I recall one client came to the office one time, and the question and the statement was, because I went to this place and they gave me this medicine and I used it, but it didn't work. So I asked them, how long did you use this? Initially I was like, okay, you used it didn't work. All right, so then let me change it for you. But I asked, how long did you use it? And they were like, a week. And I said, okay, now a week is too short a time for you to have any therapeutic evidence of treatment. Why didn't you continue using it? Oh, I was having these side effects. And I'm like, okay, did you go back to the practitioner or the medical officer who gave you those medicines? Nah, because it didn't work, I felt that I should go to another place.
Wow.
So all these things are things that are kind of, should I say, unique and peculiar to the individual who comes into your office. So although limits to what you can do as a practitioner, there are no limits to how far you can go to get to the point of what you can do. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So it's not everything you need to think outside the box. Sometimes you just need to make your box bigger.
I love that analogy.
To allow room for a lot more ways to figure out things, but still be bounded by the boundaries that does not allow you to overstep your capacity or your process. So a growth mindset in the workplace will be centered on curiosity and a humility that, although you have been trained, it doesn't matter if you have been doing the work for 20 years, there are still cases that might come that are new to you.
Yeah.
And it's always exciting for me because sometimes when we go for our AGM, our annual general meeting, and I meet some of the younger practitioners, I like talking with them. What I realize is that there are some instruments and some diagnostic tools that weren't available when we were doing our training.
Oh, yeah.
And these are things that we are learning on the job.
Okay.
Right? Now, the way you learn how to use an instrument on the job is different from how you will learn it if you are taught in an academic setting.
Yeah.
So sometimes the humility to even ask them questions about the technical underpinnings of some of the things we do in diagnosing is good for you, even as a senior practitioner. So the idea of learning from everyone, not being too full of yourself to think that you don't need to learn anything else, and the curiosity to find out what is happening, what is working now, and how you can bring in to bear all the great things that you need. And one thing too that I would also say is that let us learn how to pick skills from one field and apply them in another field in solving problems. For example, when I started doing therapy and counseling, I realized that all the skills that I have been taught during the history taking in my practice is largely what is used with your first encounter with your client.
Oh, okay. Wow.
The capacity to listen, the skills of active listening and empathetic listening and watching out for nonverbal cues, even the skill of asking questions is all relevant in counseling and therapy. So
wow.
I realized that if I pick those skills and apply them here, it makes me even a whole lot better. It makes me a better therapist than I would have been if I hadn't had an optometry background.
Wow.
So cross application of skills and the consistency of persevering till you get it right. That is how you use growth mindset in the workplace.
Wow. Thank you so much, Doc. Our time is actually up. We are 5 minutes above the time, so but I'm really excited to round it up here. But the important thing that for me, I think you mentioned here, it really comes down. I mean, everything we've discussed really comes down to these three pillars that you shared with us. Like it keeps like every point you made, I can put it under either humility, curiosity, or perseverance. And it's really awesome that at least for my viewers and for people who are going to watch the recorded session, they are going to have something to live by, by these three. And I want to know if you have any final words. So maybe you can think about that whilst I pull up some comments that we have had so far. So maybe think about what your final words would be to my viewers as we wrap up. I have Nancy Pearl Japan. So Nancy says she's also she's enjoying jollof at the moment. So you are invited.
Oh wow! Thank you, Nancy. I hope you haven't eaten everything because I'll be coming in.
I hope so too. I also have Dr. Grace Kakari. I know Dr. Kakari myself personally, so she's also thanking you for sharing. Also from LinkedIn, Walanyo Kwame Midoji, she says, I greet you all, Dr. Samuel and Prince. So thank you, Walanyo, for tuning in. So these are some of the comments that came through from LinkedIn and also from Facebook. So what would be your final words, and also how can people reach out to you, or contact you, if you can share that as well?
Okay, I think that my final words will be human capacity and skill and knowledge level and whatever it is that you think you do is endless. Our ability to grow in our knowledge, in our skills, in everything that we have is endless. The brain we have is so powerful that it can learn every single piece of information on earth and still have space in it. So it means that it doesn't matter what you think you know, there's still so much more you can do and know. And that is why it is important to have a growth mindset. And your commitment should be consistently to get better than you were. I think it was Henry Ford, or whether it's Henry Ford or Abraham Lincoln, who said that I have no respect for a man who is not better today than he was yesterday. So my philosophy has been that it doesn't matter how good you think you think I am, I can always get better. So I always tell people that if you see me, that is the dumbest version of myself you ever see today. Because I'm committed to get better every single day in whatever it is that I do. So my advice is that we have the capacity to grow in every area of our lives. And therefore, we should always have that idea that I can always get better. So if I fail at something, I'm not shocked. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't stop me, because I know I'm still growing. I know I'm in a progressive state consistently, and I'm going to get there. The other thing too is that if you're a parent and you have a child, I would ask you to let them develop the habits and let them develop the pleasure of reading. Because it's going to be one of the greatest gifts you give them, and you are going to set them up for a fantastic life. So that is one thing that I'll also ask. You can reach me by email, tinagyei@gmail.com. Tinagyei is my name, Tinagyei. Yeah, so that is there. And my phone number too is there, 0241 720 936. So if you want to reach me by phone, I'm on WhatsApp. Send me a message. It's easier for me to reply to messages than probably to pick calls. Yes, I also do one-on-one therapy and coaching. So if you need any of those services, you can also reach out to me. And or you want book recommendations or whatever it is, send me a message on WhatsApp. We will talk, or send me an email. Shoot me an email, and then I'll read it and I'll reply. So yeah, so that is it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Doc. I really appreciate your time and spending time with us, and also sharing all this with us. And for my viewers, I say a big thank you to each one of you for joining. I think that today has been a very wonderful conversation. I have learned a thing or two myself, and always remember that you can reach out to Dr. Tinagyei on the contact information on the screen currently. So with the mobile is +233 241 720936, and the email is tinagyei@gmail.com. So you can, like he said, he's also a coach. So if you need some therapy or some coaching, if you probably are thinking of negotiating some salary or preparing for an interview, or you're going through some mental stress that, you need his help, please feel free to reach out to him, and I'm sure he would come through for you. So I would want to say a big thank you, Doc, once again, and thank you to all of you that joined. And I would say that we would catch you again in the next episode, hopefully next week. So bye-bye.